Look at you, thinking you belong here.
I just...
He thought. That's adorable.
The chandelier's crystal prisms fractured the light into 1,000 tiny rainbows, but all I could see was the sneer curling Veronica's lips. Her voice, sharp as a switchblade, sliced through the murmurs of the hotel lobby. You think you belong here? Look at you. Those shoes are practically begging for mercy. The crowd's laughter stung like salt in a fresh wound. My hands clenched, nails biting into my palms, as I stood frozen in the marble-floored atrium of my own hotel. The place I'd poured my soul into building. The place where, 9 minutes from now, everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty would shatter. I forced a smile, the kind that felt like swallowing glass. "Veronica, I'm just here to check on things," I said, my voice steadier than my heart. Her eyes, cold and appraising, raked over my faded jeans and scuffed loafers. I dressed down deliberately, wanting to blend in, to observe the staff without the weight of my title as owner. But Veronica, my fiancée, didn't know that. She thought I was still the struggling entrepreneur she'd met years ago, scraping by on dreams and borrowed time. She didn't know I'd turned those dreams into the gleaming empire around us. "Check on things," she mocked, tossing her sleek blonde hair. "Sweetheart, the only thing you're checking is the help-wanted ads." The guests nearby tittered, their champagne flutes glinting under the chandelier's glow. My chest tightened, not from her words, but from the way her hand rested on the arm of the man beside her, Elliot, her business associate. His tailored suit screamed wealth, his smirk screamed arrogance, and the way his fingers brushed hers screamed something far worse. I'd always trusted Veronica. Her ambition matched mine. Her laughter lit up my darkest days, and her promises of forever had anchored me through every storm. But lately, her late nights at client dinners and her dismissive tone had planted seeds of doubt. I'd brushed them off, chalking it up to stress, to her climbing the corporate ladder. Now, standing in the lobby of the Grand Lumiere, my pride and joy, those seeds sprouted into thorns. "Let's not do this here," I said, my voice low, pleading. The air smelled of jasmine and polished wood, but it couldn't mask the sour tang of my rising panic. I needed to get her alone to understand why she was humiliating me in front of strangers. But Veronica's eyes flicked to Elliot, and his subtle nod sent a chill down my spine. They were in sync, a private language I wasn't privy to. "Do what?" she said, her tone dripping with false innocence. "I'm just being honest, Marcus. You're out of your depth here." Elliot's chuckle was a low rumble, and I noticed the way his thumb grazed her wrist. A small gesture, easily dismissed, but lodged in my gut like a splinter. I turned away, my shoes squeaking faintly on the marble as I headed toward the bar. The bartender, a young woman named Lila who'd been with us since opening, gave me a sympathetic glance. "Rough night, Mr. Kane?" she whispered, sliding a glass of water my way. She knew who I was, unlike the guests who saw only a shabby interloper. "You could say that," I muttered, my eyes still on Veronica and Elliot. They'd moved to a corner, their heads bent close, her laugh too bright, his hand too comfortable on her lower back. My mind raced, replaying every late-night call she'd brushed off, every "it's just work" excuse. I wanted to believe it was nothing, that my jealousy was poisoning my thoughts. But the way her eyes avoided mine, the way she leaned into him, it felt like a confession she hadn't spoken. I sipped the water, the cold glass grounding me as I wrestled with my thoughts. Was I overreacting? Veronica had always been charming, a networker who thrived on connections. Maybe Elliot was just a client, a means to an end. But the memory of her packing an overnight bag last week, claiming a conference in Chicago, gnawed at me. I'd found a receipt in her purse for a restaurant I knew she hadn't mentioned. A small lie, easily explained. Or so I told myself. "Everything okay?" Lila asked, her voice soft but probing. She'd seen Veronica's performance, heard the laughter at my expense. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The lobby buzzed with conversation, the clink of glasses, the rustle of silk dresses, but it all faded into a dull roar as I watched Veronica and Elliot slip toward the elevators. My heart thudded, a drumbeat of dread. I followed, my steps silent on the plush carpet. The elevator doors closed just as I reached them, the gold-plated numbers glowing mockingly. They were headed to the penthouse floor, my floor, the private suite I designed for us. My hand shook as I punched the button for the next elevator, my mind a tangle of fear and denial. Maybe they were just talking business. Maybe I was wrong. The ride up felt eternal, the mirrored walls reflecting my flushed face, my wide eyes. I told myself to stay calm, to confront her rationally. But when the doors opened, the sight of her keycard on the floor outside the suite door stopped me cold. She hadn't even bothered to be discreet. I swiped my own card, the lock clicking with a sound like a gunshot in my ears. The suite was dim, lit only by the city skyline beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The air smelled of her perfume, sweet and cloying, and something else, cologne, sharp and unfamiliar. My stomach churned as I heard a muffled laugh from the bedroom. "Veronica," I called, my voice cracking. The laugh cut off, replaced by a tense silence. I moved forward, my shoes sinking into the thick carpet, each step heavier than the last. The bedroom door was ajar, and through the gap, I saw them. Veronica, her dress half unzipped, and Elliot, his shirt unbuttoned, their faces frozen in shock. "Marcus," Veronica gasped, her hands fumbling to pull her dress up. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" My voice was a growl, raw with the pain I'd been swallowing all night. Elliot stepped forward, his hands raised like he was calming a wild animal. "Easy, man," he said, his tone infuriatingly smooth. "We were just talking." "In my bedroom?" I snapped, my eyes locked on Veronica. Her face crumpled, tears welling, but they didn't move me. "Not anymore." "How long, Veronica? How long have you been lying to me?" She shook her head, her voice trembling. "It was a mistake, Marcus. I swear it was just tonight." "Don't." I cut her off, my chest heaving. "Don't lie to my face." "Not now." The room spun, the city lights blurring into streaks of color. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to erase the image of them together. But more than that, I wanted answers. Why? I gave you everything. This hotel, our future. Why wasn't it enough? Her tears fell now, but her eyes held something else. Guilt, yes, but also defiance. "You were never here," she said, her voice breaking. "Always working, always chasing this dream. I was lonely, Marcus." "Elliot," he saw me. Her words were a knife, twisting deeper with every syllable. "I'd built this hotel for us, for our future, and she'd turned it into a stage for her betrayal." Elliot stood silent, his smugness gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. He knew who I was now, what I controlled. "Get out," I said, my voice deadly quiet. "Both of you." Veronica reached for me, her hand trembling. "Marcus, please. We can fix this." "No," I said, stepping back. "You broke it." I turned to Elliot, my gaze cold. "And you're done here. This is my hotel, my empire. You're nothing but a guest who overstayed his welcome." The silence that followed was suffocating. Veronica's sobs echoed as she grabbed her shoes, her dignity in tatters. Elliot followed, his head bowed, but I caught the flicker of resentment in his eyes. They left, the door clicking shut behind them, and I sank onto the bed, the weight of betrayal crushing me. 9 minutes ago, I'd been humiliated in my own lobby, laughed at for looking like I didn't belong. Now, I sat in the ruins of my trust, the truth laid bare. The hotel, my triumph, felt hollow. But as I stared out at the city, a new resolve hardened in my chest. I'd built this place from nothing. I'd rebuild myself, too.